Hello, I'm Larry Greene, and welcome to We've Got Books. And boy, do we ever. We're coming to you from the big sky country of Dallas, Texas, where everything is bigger gun-toting, football, and our southern drawl. I'll be your host for We've Got Books, and I'm excited to tell you about my wife, Ann Greene's books, as well as interview other exciting Christian fiction writers about their books. Our goal is to introduce you to some great Christian fiction. We'll sit around the table chatting to get to know each author and how his or her book was created. So grab your coffee, cola, or favorite drink and sit back and enjoy this captivating trip into the literary world. Today, I'm interviewing my wife, Ann Greene, an award-winning author of 40 books. Ann, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Larry. I live in McKinney, Texas. I was born in Ohio, then moved to San Diego, and then to Chicago. I finally settled here in Texas. I graduated from the University of Texas at Dallas, summa cum laude, with a degree in literary studies, but worked as a legal assistant for a few years. Because I'm a creative person, I switched from the legal field to photography. Hubbs and I ran our own photography studio before he, a colonel in the Army, was deployed to Iraq. Not wanting to run the studio alone, I closed shop. At that point, I began my dream job, writing Christian fiction.
As my military wife, I know you traveled to a number of foreign countries.
Yes. I've been blessed to visit 40 different foreign countries, plus every state in our beautiful United States.
So, which of your books did you set in those countries?
Well, I found Turkey to be one of the most exotic and wrote a suspense novel, Shadow of the Dagger, set in Turkey. I also set a 2-book historical series in Scotland, titled Masquerade Marriage and Marriage by Arrangement. The series covers some of the most turbulent times Scotland faced.
Great books. Give us a taste of where you set your books here at home.
I've always been interested in women leaving their comfort zones and entering exciting and even dangerous jobs. Thus, you'll find my World War II books like Angel with Steel Wings, and A Codebreaker's Christmas Surprise set in America.
I highly recommend both those books. What genre of Christian fiction do you write?
I'm a hybrid. Rather than specializing in one genre, I write historical and contemporary romance and suspense. I write series and standalone books. All my books contain some suspense and a bit of humor, as well as placing the reader inside the story with deep detail and sensory touches so they can live the story.
Interesting. Which one of your 40 books are we discussing today?
Today, we're spotlighting my novel, Trail of Tears, the story of John Ross. If you don't mind, I'll read the back cover copy. Here it is. The year is 1838. One man fights overwhelming odds to survive and protect. Caught between the love of 2 beautiful women, which one will he choose? What if you are a 20-year-old about to attend college and your whole world collapses? Your mother and sister are missing, and soldiers murder your father, burn your mansion, and take you prisoner. Trail of Tears relives one of the most heart-rending chapters in American history, as the U.S. government transports the self-governing, wealthy Cherokee Nation from their ancestral homeland to relocate in hostile Indian territory. The Georgia militia forced John Ross, with only a trickle of Indian blood flowing in his veins, to walk the 1,000-mile trail of tears. After John protects a full-blooded Indian girl from the lustful wagon master, the cruel soldier targets John for retribution until John's shoved too far. Bitter animosity explodes from a jealous army captain as John pushes and pulls his Conestoga wagon over mountain roads made muddy by rain and slippery by snow. Yet, the persuasive voice of the preacher and his daughter have an impact.
Fabulous story, Anne. Would you read an excerpt?
I would love to. This excerpt is where John meets the pastor's daughter, Hope Wooster. This is in John's point of view. He's been captured, seen his father murdered, and cares for his mother and baby sister inside the stockade where they have all been imprisoned. So, Larry, will you read Dred's and the pastor's parts? I'll read John's and Hope's parts.
Sure.
The sun moved in the sky before Corporal Dred finally finished. He picked up the oxen reins and slapped them on the backs of the patient beasts. John stepped in front of the animals. "Hold on. Give me our rations."
The deep voice from the wagon seat spoke soft as if to a woman. Ask me nice.
They had to have that food and water. The skimpy 2 meals a day left them all hungry. His stomach never eased from the painful gnawing ache. He leaped aboard the wagon bed and grabbed 2 burlap bags from the dirty floor. With amazing speed for such a heavy man, Dred shot out his foot. The heavy boot caught John in the chest and knocked him out of the wagon. He landed with a jarring crash, flat on his back, on the rock-hard clay. He writhed as he struggled to breathe.
Dred's harsh laughter boomed in the hot, still air. Well, I can break you in half any time I feel like it, but I'd sooner see you twiddling your thumbs inside this here stockade. He bared stained teeth in a wide grin. But one of these days, I'm going to give you another taste of old Bess here. He flipped the bullwhip and the oxen jerked nervously. When I do, there won't be enough of your skin left to make a bow on a Christmas package. You got that, boy?
Flat on his back, his chest heaving for a breath, John kept a tight grip on the food sacks. He jumped to his feet. Then he smacked his forehead. Wooster's daughter. He glanced at the stockade door. The big wooden gate still stood open. He raced toward the gate. He wasn't in any shape to meet anyone, but he'd given his word. Chest burning, blood pounding in his temples, he broke into a trot and rushed to where the Reverend Wooster and his daughter stood on the far side of a dusty wagon. They turned in his direction. From where they stood, they obviously had missed seeing his humiliation with Dred.
You arrived just in time, John. The worry lines on the pastor's forehead disappeared. The guards will close the gate soon. We've been waiting. What kept you?
Had a problem. John snapped his mouth into a thin line.
Oh, sorry to hear that. The red eyebrows puckered then smoothed. He turned to the girl at his side. Hope, this is John Ross. You recall I told you about him. Dred turned, locked eyes with John, and smirked.
John scowled. His breath came hard and fast. He grunted, hunched his shoulders, and clenched his fists. The dimpled smile faded from Hope Wooster's face. The warm lights in her wide green eyes flickered out, leaving them as cool and distant as a mountain peak buried in snow.
John, my daughter Hope. Wooster's jovial voice sang with pride. Then he too frowned.
John sucked in a deep breath and rubbed a hand across the grit and grime streaking his face. A sinking sensation clenched the pit of his stomach. They must think I'm rude, and I look awful. Angry, wearing a dirty shirt, threadbare breeches, moccasins with holes so large my toes protrude. He eased the scowl from his face, pulled at the collar of his shirt, and forced a smile. I'm pleased to meet you, Miss Wooster. His voice came out wooden, without warmth or enthusiasm. He thrust out a filthy hand for her to shake. She was small. Her coal shuttle bonnet stood even with his shoulder, and she was so clean and well-dressed that she seemed to arrive from a different planet. The lacy mitts protecting her hands from the sun didn't belong in this stark stockade. Hope Wooster's vibrancy radiated around her like a halo. Her green eyes sparkled with vivacity. He swallowed and dropped the hand she hadn't taken. And I've never been at a greater disadvantage. Shifting from one foot to the other, he tossed his hair back from his eyes with a jerk of his head. For such a tiny person, Hope made him feel really uncomfortable. He should say something. But he stood there trying not to scowl, trying to cool his rage, and drinking in her healthy freshness. How many worlds ago had he been on the outside? At his fixed stare, color painted her cheeks, but he couldn't look away. Determination showed in that strong, round chin and steady gaze that returned his stare so coolly. Passion showed in the curve of her lips. Hope Wooster was not the sweet, docile, plain preacher's daughter he'd expected. Your most humble servant, ma'am. He cleared his hoarse throat. Then he flushed as he realized he'd already acknowledged her. John shuffled his feet. If Wooster hadn't come to his rescue, the missionary's daughter would have left him standing there all day, mumbling like a fool. He swallowed the lump, clogging the back of his throat.
They're closing the gate. I'll see you tomorrow, dear. Pastor Wooster kissed his daughter's cheek.
Hope hugged her father. Please take better care of yourself, Daddy. She turned to John. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Ross. The girl's tone suggested that it definitely had not been a pleasure to meet Mr. Ross. John jutted his jaw. The girl could go to blazes for all he cared. But immediately he realized he did care. The prick to his pride hurt like an arrow to his chest. He couldn't remember when he'd wanted to make a better impression on a female, or when he'd failed more miserably. She turned and walked toward the gate, her slender back stiff, her head held high, the strings of her bonnet floating behind her.
Pastor laid a heavy hand on John's shoulder. Sorry, my fault. Timing was off, and I'm afraid I built you up to hero status in my daughter's eyes.
No, sir, not your fault. I was rude. John kicked at the ground and gazed at the pastor's worn boots. What did you tell her about me?
Oh, not much. Just that you had been accepted at Princeton and how you saved Rachel from Robert Dredd. Oh, and I told her you were a new convert and skimped on your own food to give more to the children.
John swallowed. You laid on the praise a bit thick, didn't you?
All true, son, he winked. And I told Hope you were very, very respectful to women, seldom lost your temper, and were never in a bad mood.
You didn't.
Afraid I did.
So, when I had my mind on plotting revenge, she got the impression I didn't like her? John winced. He was the worst kind of idiot.
Probably do her good. She's accustomed to having young men fall at her feet. You no doubt intrigue her.
Aggravate her, more like.
Don't let her get the upper hand with you or she'll lose interest.
That was interest. Wooster must not know his own daughter. She wanted no part of me. And that stung.
Okay, so that's an intriguing excerpt. And Anne, I've read your book, and it is exciting, packed with information, and has a wonderful spiritual application. What would you like readers to take from reading Trail of Tears, the story of John Ross?
I've learned to step out in faith into unknown and uncomfortable situations. I often use the verse found in Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength.
Thank you, Anne. Listeners, please check out Anne's book, Trail of Tears, the story of John Ross. Go to Amazon.com, put Anne Greene in the search bar. The last name is Greene with an E, Greene. Actually, Anne also ends with an E, Anne. Check out Trail of Tears, the story of John Ross, and any of her other books that snag your attention. She writes historical and contemporary romance and suspense. And please tell our listeners where they can find your website or someplace they can contact you personally.
I'd love to hear from my readers. My website is AnneGreeneAuthor.com, ANNEGREENE, author.com. On my website, you'll find some of my art, pictures with my husband's military career, covers of all my books, as well as a short description, and most important, ta-da, a place where you can sign up for my free newsletter, which tells you more about my life, my latest books, and usually offers free autographed copies of my books. So please sign up.
Listeners, we're so glad you joined Anne and me, and we'd love to hear from you. We love having you and hope you meet with us next week when we spotlight well-known author Stephanie King discussing her Mom-Com novel, Fellowship of the Frazzled Moms. You won't want to miss her exciting podcast and read a good book. We hope you will choose one of our fabulous books from We've Got Books. Keep exploring the world through reading. Reading gives a lift to your day, sparks new ideas and interests, and helps you become a brilliant conversationalist. So keep reading. See you next time.